Hey, Freedom Builders, welcome again to your live coaching call. I'm Rolando Galeana and here to answer all your questions. But I'm not alone this week. I got the star of the show over here, Cole Clifton. How's it going, Cole?
It's good, Rolando. Thanks for having me on here again. Excited to tackle some of these questions with you.
Awesome. So you all know the drill. Drop your questions in the comment box. You have us for the next hour. We'll answer any and all your questions and try to get through all of them by the end of the call. And typically we do a pretty good job at tackling all the questions. Y'all are amazing. You guys always bring some great questions as well. So I'll go ahead and let's go ahead and kick things off. So what do you say, Cole?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and read the first question we got here from Rashna. Says, hello, Rolando. You got the shout out there. What impact does it have on ranking if total sales get split into two variations? For example, a listing is ranking on page 1 organic, and earlier total daily sales of one listing was 16. After launching another variation, each variation has 8 sales. I want to know, does it have any negative impact on ranking of the original product, which was ranking on page 1? So this is, I guess, a question that some people have a different answer to, but from my own experience, I like to have the same variation under, if they're similar products, I like to have both variations under the same parent listing. And I think overall, how your ranking kind of works with those each child variation is that it is going to rank whatever has the higher rank on that page between those two products is going to rank higher on that search. So you don't need to worry about one affecting the ranking on the other if it's lower in the search results, because whatever listing or whatever, let's say you have a color variation, whatever color is selling better is going to rank higher on those search results. It's not going to have a negative effect for the ranking of that product. And in general, I like to have the both child variations, have them on the same listing, just because then you're getting more traffic to your page. If somebody's coming in to look at one color of your product, right there, they can also see the other product without having to kind of go deeper in the search results to find that other color. So yeah, it's gonna not have a negative impact whatsoever on your overall listing. Especially, you know, like maybe you're thinking one doesn't convert as well as the other. It really comes down to whatever product ranks higher, has a better overall rank for that keyword, it's going to show up in the search results for the customer. So if you have one color doing better than the other, it's not going to have a negative impact on where that product's ranking in the search results.
Awesome. Looks like Guillermo has the next question. He's asking, hey, I have one new product that has a lot of clicks on PPC, around 800 spend in 1 week, but almost no sales, 5 sales. So it's getting traffic, but no conversions. What would you recommend to do to increase conversions? Does have A+, but no views as is new. Should I continue with the spending or reduce it a little bit? Following up, when should I start optimizing the campaign? At the 2nd week or now that it has been running for 1 week? Excellent question, Guillermo. It's difficult to say because I'm curious to know how your campaigns are structured, because there is a structure that you'll need to use in order to be able to have optimal campaigns. So that's one angle, and I could dive into that in just a moment. So that's one thing I think that needs to maybe be tweaked or worked if it's not set up properly. In addition to that, and I kind of like taking it back a little, kind of stepping back a little bit. There is the element of right now what's happening is your main image is working, or something you're doing is working. People are clicking. So that's like conversion number 1. If you were getting impressions and 0 clicks, then we kind of have to go back to square one, where is it your image? Is it maybe your title? Obviously, the fact that you don't have reviews right now initially isn't impacting that first step. A lot of times that first, people are you'll get impressions, 0 clicks. It could be because the hindrance could be the reviews, but that's not happening here. So what that tells me is it's possible that your bullet points may need some tweaking, may need some TLC, just so that it's maybe more legible. I always find that the most effective listings are the ones that are clear and to the point. I know that it's very tempting to stuff like our title with keywords. It's tempting to stuff our bullet points with keywords. However, I find that the clear and concise listings are the ones that convert the best. So make sure that you're highlighting the benefits, not so much the features. So that's always what I focus on. And there's many places that you could put in keywords. So if there's a keyword that does not necessarily fit within your title or your bullet points, you could put that as a back-end search term, for example. So do that. Make sure to put an emphasis on that. In addition to that, your images, right? So they somehow your main image is definitely working to an extent, right? You're getting clicks. So someone saw the image, caught their attention, they clicked. How are your secondary images? Your lifestyle? Do you have a lifestyle image in there? Do you have an image that, like an infographic image? Give it context. Tell a story with the images that you're using beyond the main image. Of course, the main image needs to remain on a white background, take up 80% of the section there, of the photo. But now, like, put some love in the your second, third, fourth. Make sure to use up the entire 7 slots. Now, if you could do video, all the better. That would take the 7th slot, if I'm not mistaken. And so that way there, video is a great way of telling a story. It's like probably the most impactful way to allow someone to see themselves as the individual, the person that's using your product. So that would be the focal point, that above the fold. I'm glad you have A+ content, but I'd concentrate on the stuff, as we call the what's above the fold. So I am going to just quickly share my screen here in a moment. Let me just pull this up here. 1 second. We still have, we have more questions coming in, so I'll try to I'll try not get too long-winded, Cole. You're
giving the in-depth answer. This is good stuff.
Well, that's good, right? You're getting a full-on course here, Guillermo. So, this is what we would call above the fold. So I just typed in here yoga mat, right? So when I click on any of these images, any of these that are not sponsored images, these organic listings, for example, here, there I am, yoga mat. Immediately, what you land on, that's what we call above the fold. So concentrate on this area before a person even starts scrolling. So everything above the fold, make that your first priority. So in this case, if this was your product, obviously the title matters, and your different variant colors, and then your images. So this is what's above the fold. Depending on if you do or don't have variants, and sometimes your bullet points will actually will fit above the fold. You see how clear and concise this is? That's why they're number 1. It's not, it's just clear to the point. There's no guesswork in this, and someone can make a decision quick, because that's what you want. You want them to look at this, maybe spend a little time on the images, and then be like, I'm going to add this to my cart. And then maybe they'll look at another one, but it's in the cart, and then they'll rule out which one's better than the other. But focus on what's above the fold. Then the next step naturally is, of course, your A+ content, and making it telling the story. You see how this is taking us through a story, and do that. And selling is nothing but selling a convincing story. Your product, there's a story to it. Tell that story. Find that story. and I should say marketing is just telling your story. And that would cover that. And I know you said PPC, so I'll quickly dive into PPC. So there's a little structure that I like to follow. I like to run a automatic campaign, and so you don't need to be spending a fortune. Just do what the minimum that Amazon recommends is $20. So I'd run an automatic campaign with a daily budget of $20. Let Amazon's algorithm figure that part out. But in order for this to be effective, definitely your listing has to be finalized, right? You need to make sure that you have great copy and that your keyword, that you've done your keyword research and so on. So that would be my recommendation here. And then I would run another manual campaign. It's kind of split into two ad groups where you have a broad match type and a phrase match type. And I would drop no more than 10 to 20 keywords within matching keywords. So whatever you drop here in ad group 1, the 10 to 20 keywords that you drop in there, your main keywords that you're trying to target, I would drop in the exact identical into ad group 2, which is your phrase match. And then we'll talk about it, 2 weeks later about optimizing for your exact match type. But these two campaigns I would start off with and just build it out this way. And it should save you a lot of headaches of really managing, because the outcome of a broad match type and the outcome of a phrase match type is going to be exponential. If you just drop 10 keywords, 10 main keywords of yours in here, the results of the search terms that are going to be returned are going to be fairly exponential. So do that along with your Amazon. These are your research. You're researching in the early stage. It's an investment. So that definitely keep that in mind. In the early stages, this is an investment, so that 2 weeks from now, you'll be able to extract some of those long tail keywords that are very effective, and that once again, now you could start this process of optimizing your listing with those keywords if they're very effective, and then optimizing your PPC campaigns with some of those keywords as well. So yeah, that's the the long story short. I'll stop sharing my screen here, and I'll let you tackle the next one, Cole, so that I'm not.
Yeah, we can save your voice a little bit, Rolando. All right, next question we got is from Brett. What's going on? This is Rolando. I was telling you earlier. I met with Brett yesterday. We had a customer interview, so good to see you joining us again, Brett. Awesome. Let's see what you got for us today. So, hi, I just launched my first product on Sunday, and I have a few questions. I shipped my product to Amazon using one of the partnered carriers. When I set up the shipment, no price estimate was given, and I'm trying to find what the actual cost was. Where would I find this on Seller Central? All right, well, I'm going to share my screen for a minute because I pulled this up. Let's see here. All right, you should be able to see my screen. So within Seller Central, when you go to your shipping queue and you click on any of the shipments that you've created, just click on track shipment. And once that loads, at the top bar, they kind of have a quick summary of the shipment, and you'll find the price there. So right up to the top, we have this quick kind of summary telling you where you shipped it from, everything like that. And then here to the right, you'll see Amazon partnered carrier shipping cost. And that's where you can see what you paid Amazon for that shipment. And you should be able to find any shipment that you do with a partnered carrier should show up right there. All right, next question. Okay, so just launched my first product. Is it normal for the click-through rate to vary greatly between different ad campaigns? My exact and ASIN targeting campaigns seem to be doing very well, but auto and broad never seem to score as highly as the others. FYI, it's only been 4 days, so not a big sample size. Yeah, so your click-through rate is likely going to vary depending on what type of campaign you're running, especially if you have exact and ASIN, and if you have that very, I guess, relevant to what your product is, then you're likely going to have customers that click on your listing more because it is so similar to the product that you're selling. Whereas if you're doing automatic and you're letting Amazon kind of take a best guess at where your product should show, for one, you're going to be showing up in front of more customers that maybe aren't looking for your product. So it's likely that your click-through rate is going to be higher, or I guess I should say lower. And then similar for broad, you're probably going to have more reach on both of those campaigns, depending how you have it set up. And with that reach, there might be some areas that you show up that aren't totally relevant to your product. And for that reason, if a customer is not looking for it, it's going to be a less likely chance of them actually clicking on your listing. So I would say over a longer period of time, likely your exact and your ASIN campaigns are going to have going to have a higher click-through rate. There's going to be customers that are more likely to click on them. And also, you mentioned it's only 4 days. I would give it at least a week or two until you actually have real data and make any decisions off of that. Unless you have something that's getting completely out of whack, spending like crazy, getting clicked on like crazy. Typically, it'll take a week or two for a new product for you to start having an impact on that. And one other thing to mention, if you have a new product, your click-through rate is going to be lower because you don't have any reviews. That's just the name of the game. A lot of those data points that you're looking at, they're very good things to use early on, but they will change a lot once you start to get reviews, once your rank changes, and once you start to optimize your campaign. So good thing to be tracking it early on, but just kind of keep that in mind that there's a number of different variables that will impact that as you've been up for sale for a longer time. And then the last question you have is, I shipped in 492 units to Amazon. They're showing that they've received in 542. How do I go about getting this fixed? So I have this happen all the time. And sometimes it can be frustrating. I think really the only thing, there's really nothing you can do to change that in the system. Typically what probably happens here is that they over received, or maybe they scanned one of your boxes twice. And for that reason, now it looks like they actually have more inventory on hand than you actually sent in there. And that's a very common thing to happen. I mean, you're sending in a lot of units, and there are a lot of people sending in a lot of units, and it's easier for those workers there at Amazon to accidentally scan a box twice or something along those lines. So I wouldn't worry about getting it fixed. It should work itself throughout the system. Eventually, when that shipment does close on Amazon side of things, you can go in there and reconcile it, or just say that you can have them look into the issue, and then at that point they'll probably adjust it on your inventory. But it's not really a cause for concern. Just kind of keep that in mind, that they might have a few extra units in there, and then you can kind of factor that into your planning. But eventually, that should update in their system. And that is it. That's all the questions we have on that page. But I know there was some other ones popping up on the live stream, Rolando.
Looks like Inam has the next question. So let's see here. It says hello, by the way. Hello, guys. How's it going? And if a relevant keyword exists on the title of your listing, and you see that the keyword doesn't perform well on any ad campaign, can you put or add that keyword to negative ad campaigns because it's performing at a loss? If you do that, would your listing be affected? What are your recommendations? It looks like there's a second part to that. Let me read that just in case it's tied to this. Whatever keyword I have on my title, do you place them in a campaign ad? What do you do when they don't perform well? The next one's about wire transfer, so we'll answer that one next. Okay, so yeah, so let's see here. So you're saying that there's the keyword that you put in your title. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cole. The keyword you have your main keyword in your title. Good call. You need to do that for sure. But when you put it in your PPC campaigns, whether it's a broad match type, phrase match type, exact match type, they perform lousy. And can you negative exact that? Absolutely. You'll want to negative exact that on your automatic campaign and on all your campaigns at the campaign level, because it's just an easier way if you're, versus trying, because you can negative exact at the campaign level and you can negative exact at the ad group level. But just to keep it simple, negative exact that keyword that's performing lousy in all your campaigns. It will not impact your listing. Your listing, there is a marriage of sorts when it comes to PPC, but the marriage more is on the PPC side, where there are some long tail keywords that convert very well. You'll want to take those and add them to your listing just to kind of enhance your listing. But if there's a keyword that you know is what people are typing and searching for your product, so it's kind of like two different things happening in terms of just organically, or it defines your product, because you can't, for example, if you target yoga mat, I promise you that's a very competitive keyword. So it's going to perform lousy because people are gonna like beat you to it, like, you know. But if you have a long tail keyword where it's like blue yoga mat with, you know, like flowers painted on it, you know, like a very long tail, and you see that seems to perform well, so you have that exact, that's kind of like the variant that you created, then you want to maybe toss some of those keywords in your back-end search terms and definitely keep them in your campaigns. But yeah, yoga mat's not going to perform well, even though you know it's a yoga mat and you know that that's your main keyword. Then yeah, you could. But on the same token, so it has to be negative exact. Do not do phrase match. Do not do broad match, because then that will impact your campaigns. So that's something to keep in mind. All right. Let's see here. Nam has the next question. Wire transfers to supplier can get expensive. Do you have any recommendations around how we can reduce the wire transfer fee? I'm paying $30 for wire transfer. Unfortunately, I don't have a way around that. I think that's the most effective way. I don't know, Cole, do you have
I was hoping you'd have an answer here, Rowan. I was hoping I'd learn something too. I'd say $30 for wire transfer is pretty good. I know I pay $45 for a transfer. So I have looked pretty extensively into finding a way around that. And there might be a few services out there, but most banks, if you want to have free international wire transfer, you need to have like a $100,000 balance, like I think on average throughout the month. So, you know, typically, depending on where you're at in the Amazon journey, you don't just have that sitting in the business account. So especially for a new seller, that's kind of hard to avoid. I think down the line, there might be other options, but most banks, it's pretty hard to avoid the wire transfer unless you are really doing some volume.
Yeah, it just kind of comes down to your bank, and to be quite honest, most, you know, let's say all, unless you're using Alipay or anything like that, then they prefer a wire transfer direct. Most suppliers, and once you've established good rapport, you know that it's not an issue. All right. So Inam asks, on the product review page, a customer is asking me for suggestions after buying my product. How do I reply to this question? How do I know which customer bought my product from the review?
So do you think he's referring to just a question on the product page?
Yeah, like in the review section. Correct us if we're wrong, and I'm like, someone wrote a review and it's a question.
You should be able to just go to the bottom of that page and click on respond to that question that pops up. I know typically I'll get an email when somebody's written a question on my page, and you should be able to go through that and answer that question. They typically have a link in there, and you can just kind of follow that. It'll take you to the page where you respond to the question, but I'm trying to see, I'm trying to go to the question spot on a listing and see what options it gives you.
Yeah, I think they recently phased that out where you could reply, if I'm not mistaken. So that's why you're not seeing that. Before, you used to be able to reply to a review, and they gradually phased it out, which is why it kind of like caught everybody's by surprise. It wasn't like announced. So unfortunately, there isn't a way to reply the only way that you can, the only times that you can reply, like Cole said, is if it's one of those questions in the have a question field that outside of the reviews, it's literally like a just a field that says, customer questions and answers. Like here, I'll share my screen. Let's see if I can. I got so many.
Too many tabs open?
Yeah, I gotta. It's wild. All right, so yeah, so here you can kind of see this field where people can submit a question. And what will happen is those will automatically come, you'll get an email. If you're the seller, you'll get an email, and you're limited to how many times, I don't know exactly, it'll tell you if you can or cannot reply. So this is a whole different thing that you'll want to keep an eye on. But like I said, when you go into reviews, there used to be an option down here where it said reply, and they've phased that away. I'd say recently, I think too long ago, just like a gradual phase out. So yeah, that's unfortunately, there's no way. So you're asking, is there a way to find someone? If it's a fairly new product, what you could do is you can you can do a little detective work, and you can look at the date that they posted their review and start like searching back, and maybe like there's a Jim or a Bob that's like a Robert that purchased.
I thought they had started to get rid of the name in the orders page, because I've done this in the past. But I think they recently did something where they basically like hide all the information of the customer. I don't remember if they give you the name. That'd be something worth checking, but I have a feeling they might have gotten rid of that too.
Oh, and Nam says he has the option to reply. See, that's why I say it's one of those things where it's like it's not entirely.
Yeah, I don't have. Okay.
Yeah. So you can. So if you have that option, then definitely take advantage of that. Like I said, they phased it out on some seller accounts. I know on mine I can't. I don't know if it's just because the longevity of my account, and like I don't know. I really don't know how Amazon will activate certain features on some seller accounts, and some seller accounts will have like a beta version of something, and others won't. So that's often a challenge that we face. So let's see here.
I'll take the next question we got here from Hussein. Hi, could you please explain these titles and how to use them in Keyword Scout? Okay, so first one is recommended promotion. That refers to how many sales you would need to make in order to get your product to rank at the top of that search. So let's say it said 30 was the number that for recommended promotion. That would mean you essentially need to give away 30 units or make 30 sales in order to have an impact in moving your rank or moving your product up to the top of that search result. Ease to rank, that is basically how difficult it is to rank for a keyword. Typically, that's tied to the search volume of a keyword. If you have a very high search volume keyword, that means there are more sellers competing to be on that, which is likely going to make it a more difficult word to rank. So typically, when you see a higher search volume, it will have a higher level of difficulty to rank. The organic product count is how many products are currently ranking for that keyword in total. So however many organic listings are showing up for that keyword that you type into the search bar, that's letting you know how many products there are. Sponsored rank is going to be where your listing is showing up as a sponsored ad. So if you are advertising on that word and it says number 3 or number 4, that means you're either in the third or fourth placement of advertising, or the advertising spots that are available on that keyword. And then overall rank, I believe, is, let me double check on that one. Overall rank is, I think, takes the higher of the two between your product rank and your sponsored rank, and lets you know where you're ranking for that specific keyword as well. So overall rank slightly different than organic rank. Organic rank is just where you're showing up regardless of sponsored ad. Overall rank, I believe, is taking whichever is higher, letting you know what is the highest rank that you have on that keyword, whether it be your sponsored rank or your organic rank.
Awesome. Let's see here. Looks like Kristen has the next question. Kristen's asking, if we get to the top 5 on page 1 and have lots of reviews, is PPC always still necessary? So first, that's congratulations. That's
heck yeah, that's awesome. Congrats.
That's great that you're ranking on page 1 and in the top 5 spot for your keywords, your main keywords. And the way I see this is, think of like any business endeavor. You're going to always have marketing costs. PPC is part of that marketing cost. Now, you'll want to optimize and tweak and adjust your budget so that it fits your overarching budget, I guess you could say, and make sure that you're not overspending in the PPC area, but it is always something that you will be spending on. It is something that requires constant, and the best way of putting it this way is, like, the big players are always running PPC. So if they're always running PPC, they're always going to be your competition, and they could quickly come in and and new players coming in. So the way that you remain competitive and keep that rank up is by running your PPC. So yes, it is a part of just your overall marketing strategy. Maybe in the future you introduce other paid advertising, but I would say until you really hone in PPC, there's no need to venture outside of Amazon's ecosystem. They're constantly tweaking and adding new features to their, I remember when I first started, their PPC was just, their whole platform was kind of crude and not that user friendly. And over time, it's gotten a little more user friendly, and they've added more features, more abilities. Like now you can even do audience targeting. Before that wasn't a possibility. Now product targeting. I remember that didn't exist before. There's different things that you can do to enhance your PPC. But at a bare minimum, you're running an automatic campaign, and you're running some keywords through a broad phrase and exact match campaign at minimum.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, Rolando. Typically, if you're ranking that high on that keyword, that means it's a good keyword for you to be advertising on too. You'll probably have pretty good success with conversion and ACoS. So typically, yeah, and at the end of the day, you want to show up in as many spots as possible on Amazon, which is going to give you a better chance to make a sale. So if they type in a keyword and they see your sponsored listing, they see your organic listing, maybe even have like a sponsored brand at the top. Now they've seen your listing 3 times, whereas some of your competitors might be only showing up once, and you're going to have a lot better chance for them to click on your listing. So typically, at least from my experience, the words that I'm ranking on the highest are typically the words I'll even double down on with advertising to make sure that I'm capturing as many sales as I can on those top relevant words that likely have like the higher search volume. So yeah, I think advertising on those words, regardless of where you're ranking, whether it's top number 1, whether it's 10th on that page, is always going to be something you want to do.
Awesome. Yeah, good catch, Cole. That's a very good point. All right, looks like Hussein has the next question. Can I use my Visa card to pay my supplier through Alibaba Trade Insurance? Can it be an alternative way of using wire transfer? Yes, you can. However, there is it's a pretty steep fee in comparison to just paying like your bank the wire transfer fee. So that's probably one way to save, is to wire transfer the funds versus using a credit card. But that is accepted through like the Alipay system. All right. I actually messed this one up. He says he doesn't. I said I don't. He says I don't have the option to reply to his review. So yeah. Like I said, they deactivated it. I thought that maybe you had one of those situations where they, like I said, they do that though. Some sellers have access to one thing and some sellers don't. But in this case, I guess looks like it's been phased out on all accounts. You had a special situation there now. All right. Let's see. Oh, and now I'm just kind of following up that very common reply. Okay. Yeah, you're welcome, Hossein. You're welcome, Kristen. Let's see. Inam asks, for my product, I have Spanish keywords ad running, but I am not getting any impressions from the Spanish keyword campaign at all. What are your suggestions? My suggestions are ultimately just to just use them as back-end search terms. There's no pain in just keeping them running, but you're probably the reason they're in the back-end search term just because you'll be indexed for it, and it's not going to be as competitive. In campaigns, it's always going to remain that way. You're going to get very low impressions, very low conversions. It's just one of those things that having it indexed and as a back-end search term, you can scoop up those easy wins. So that's why it's recommended to keep it there. No harm in having a campaign running with those keywords, but I would do it as an exact match campaign and just kind of let it run as an exact match campaign. Like I said, it's just kind of there like as a catch-all, but it's not going to, it's not going to be as effective as your top keywords. So
yeah, I've never tried the Spanish keywords in a campaign. Only ever put them in the back end and had success with that. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe those words are probably going to be like pretty low traffic to begin with. And I mean, worst case, you can try to increase your bid, see if it has an impact on any impressions. But yeah, generally, I think you should be pretty much good to go if you put it into the back end, and you really shouldn't. I doubt you're going to have a whole lot of impressions or clicks from the ad campaign, but no harm in doing it. And maybe you try updating or increasing your bid to see if you start getting some clicks. So yeah, something worth testing out, but probably not something I have a whole lot of experience with.
And maybe add a few that you can think that you can. I don't know if you're fluent in Spanish. If not, just do a little Google search, Google Translate. And find maybe several Spanish keywords and their variants and so on, because you wouldn't want to do a broad match, because then that's going to get crazy. It's not going to be an optimized campaign. But doing it as an exact match, like I said, it's just a catch-all. It's not there to perform really insanely amazing and you're going to get incredible results, but it's there in the event someone does type that, your ad gets displayed, especially if your bids are competitive. So cool. Is that it? Kristen, awesome. Yeah,
I'm seeing.
Keep working on it. Keep crushing it. So I guess this is the end of the road. Cool. Now we'll stick around. We got another 2 minutes here.
Any more questions? Drop them in the chat. We got a couple minutes left.
Oh, here we go. Got a question, and I'll let you tackle.
All right. Let's see. I can see that some of my competitors' listings are being indexed for a similar product. How many Spanish keywords do you recommend? I don't know. That varies a lot by the product. It's kind of a follow-up on the last one. I don't know. I mean, I think if you had like 5 keywords in there that were Spanish, if you're talking about your campaigns, I think that would be good. If it's your back end, maybe just a couple, because you're limited on space there. But it really depends on the product. If you're a new listing too, that's probably going to have an impact compared to where your competitors are showing up. So I would say, yeah, I mean, you're not going to go super deep with it. You're not going to have 20, 25 keywords for that product unless it's very specific to an audience who's heavily Spanish speaking. Then that might be an outlier. But, I would say maybe a couple in your back end. If you're doing a campaign, maybe a few more than that, 5, 10 keywords. But I know from my experience, most of my products, I've never found more than like 2, maybe 3 Spanish keywords that are even relevant to what the product is. And even then, they don't have a whole lot of search volume. But I would say one thing you could do is make sure you're advertising on those competitors. So even if you're not showing up on the keyword, maybe they'll click on that listing and then you'll show up at the bottom of the product details page. So at least make sure you're showing up there, and then you can kind of continue to tinker around with the keywords. But yeah, I don't think you're going to have a ton of Spanish keywords, just my guess for that product.
Yeah, and just to add to that, always maximize your real estate with the keywords that you do know perform well. So that's like first and foremost. Put those, as priority, and that's when like you'll know how many characters you have left and what you kind of, how many Spanish keywords you can use. So yeah, a couple is good. I mean, if you have ample room, then maybe toss in another, but definitely always optimize according to the keywords that are most relevant to your product first in English, and then kind of sprinkle in a little,
it's a good way to
salt action.
Oh man,
in that little salt action. All right, so let's see here. Okay, Hossein has the next question. Can I use my supplier address for ship from address as I use a DDP shipment? So yes, like if you're referring to on your shipping plan, you can absolutely use your supplier's address as the shipping address since you're using DDP. And how can I know my Amazon warehouse address? So what happens when you create your shipping plan? You're going to have labels that will be created. And that's how you determine. They're typically going to, and it's not just going to be one warehouse. There might be 3 warehouses that they'll ship it to. So that's a very important thing to keep in mind, that it's not just going to be. So that's why you do need to create the shipping plan, and see if I could kind of give an example here. Let's see. Let me see the so this is our demo account that Cole and I have been using, and you can see here that the shipping address is going to pop up here. Once it's been completed, this is basically where this is going to. This is going to Dallas, Texas, to their their fulfillment center in Dallas, Texas. But what's going to happen is you're going to have labels prior to this. Since this is already completed, I can't pull up a label. Let's see. Yeah, you won't be able to see the label. But here you can kind of see the transactions of the fulfillment center transfers that have happened and so on. So sometimes you'll send it to one shipping center, and then they take over and they ship it to others, because they're trying to situate your product throughout the United States. This is nothing that you have to worry about, but just kind of breaking down the fulfillment centers that they further divided on. But initially, it's very possible that you're going to have a shipment that's broken down into 3 fulfillment centers right out the gate. And so you'll get labels as you're going through this process, as you're going through this whole, here we go.
Hey, Rolando, I got a screenshot here that I can, you might be able to pull it up right there. If not, I can pull something up that I think might show what you're going for.
Yeah, let's see if not, then I'll let you share the screenshot.
Oh, there you go. That's it. Right.
So,
because this is typically the page where it shows you where you gotta ship it to.
yeah, looks like it doesn't let me get to that screen anymore. But I'll let you share your screen so you have a.
Yeah, let me see if this is what you're getting at here. Where are we at? All right, so this is kind of the screen I think that you were talking about where this is the one you're on, but here's an example if they're having you ship it to 3 different fulfillment centers as opposed to just the one. So that's kind of where, as you're going through building your shipment, you'll get to this point, and this is where they tell you how many shipments or, where each of your shipments is going. Sometimes it'll be one, sometimes it might be multiple. Yeah, that was kind of the step you wanted to show, right?
Yeah. So that right there, you can see it's going to Texas, Florida, and North Carolina. So as you go through and you complete the transaction, there's going to be a field where you'll come to a point where the labels will be printed, and you just provide those labels. It's a PDF download of the quantity. So for example, there's 30 units. If you can scroll back up. Yeah. There's 30 units going to Texas. There's another, what was the other quantity that was going? So
this is just one of them, because you got to do one of them each at a time. So for these 3 shipments, it'll have, after you approve, I think there's missing a step here. You'll work on each of them individually because they'll give you separate labels for each of them. So this could be the example if you're going to Texas, and then they have you go through and input the numbers. And then I think this next step after you accept it is when they give you the labels that you'll have your supplier put on the box. So
hopefully that helps, Hossein. It's just kind of step by step. Once you go through all the steps, then you'll get there. There's the labels, and that's what you provide your supplier. What are your recommendations for freight forwarders? Who should I use? Is it a good practice to use freight forwarder recommended by my suppliers? Now, if you have an established relationship with your supplier, now if it's like just your first order, maybe you might want to use your own freight forwarder. But maybe they, if they have a recommended supplier, you have good rapport, and you kind of crunch the numbers, and it makes sense to use their, the freight forwarder they recommend, and they'll take it all the way to, say, for example, to through the port, and then Amazon's partner carrier can just pick it up from your freight forwarder's warehouse. Then maybe then it would be ideal to if the numbers pan out, then to use that supplier. But when I'm initially working with someone, I work with my freight forwarder, and I use Flexport. I've always used Flexport. I made the transition to Flexport a while back, and I've never had any complaints. Now, of course, another tool that you can use to kind of like shop around is Freightos. Beyond Flexport, I couldn't recommend anyone just because like I said, that's who I use. But Freightos is an excellent tool to kind of like shop around. It's a legit site, so definitely I would recommend going there and price shopping there. So they have established relationships with the freight forwarders. They do their initial vetting, Freightos, so that's why Freightos is a good alternative to do a little shopping. But if you can, Flexport. But I will say Flexport will require for you to have an LLC, so an entity. There are some freight forwarders that will only work with entities. There are some that will work with individual sellers. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, I put the name of that Freightos just because it's kind of hard to spell. I put that in the chat. And another one, I like Freightos a lot. They give you a lot of good options there. The forwarder I've used is Freight-Rite, which has been I've nothing but good things to say. It's always been pretty smooth, and they're on top of it. So that'd be you got Flexport, Freight-Rite, and then whatever else you can find on Freightos. You should have quite a few options between those.
Awesome. Let's see, we've got Guillermo asked, sorry, I just noticed the session started. The ads are like in the course, manual campaign, broad phrase exact, auto campaign, category, targeting. I will follow up on the device. Thanks. Yes, so there's more than one way, you know, to do PPC. We always talk about this, how you know, there's definitely multiple ways to run your campaigns. The example I gave is just a way, a very I believe like less is best, right? Like, so I like to like manage less, and that's why I tend to use just those types of campaigns in the structure that I showed, just because it's, you know, I don't like using all the keywords that that Amazon allows. They allow 1,000 per ad group. So imagine the nightmare of managing 1,000 bids per ad group, and so, you know, so you're talking about 2,000 if you're managing your phrase match and you're managing your broad match. You have to go in there in each one, and then also your budget has to kind of cycle through all this, right? It has to figure out like which keywords are going to perform best for you, and which, you know, which variants of that keyword. So that's why just using a very broad, very targeted keyword for your product, keeping it 10 to 20, simplify the process. There's no harm in pausing a campaign and kind of like restructuring it and kind of like regrouping and figuring it out. If you feel that, you know, that you know, initially it's just, you know, it's spending too much. So just keep that in mind.
Looks like we had a follow-up question from Hossein on that earlier shipping question. How can I tell my shipper to do that? Yeah, so what we were showing you is actually that's what you would do within Seller Central. You'll do everything up to the point until you get to the printing off the labels, and then you will send those to your supplier to put them on the boxes. So you'll put in their address, you'll put in where you're shipping it to, and then Amazon will tell you what fulfillment centers you're sending it to, and then all you have to do is send those labels to your supplier. So they don't really do anything within Seller Central. All you're doing is giving them the labels to slap on the box. Looks like, yeah, is that a follow-up question? Do I have to do my listing before I start my shipping plan? Yeah, you have to have a listing created before. So you have to create the listing. You don't have to like put all the details in the listing. Like, you don't have to have a description, photos, or any of that stuff. You just have to actually have the listing created on Amazon in order to create a shipping plan. Otherwise, there's nowhere for you to set that up. So make your listing. You don't have to do all the details of it. Just actually create it on Amazon. Then you can create the shipping plan where you get the labels, and then you'll send those to your supplier.
Let me share my screen here, and I was able to retrieve like an active shipping plan. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yep, got it.
Perfect. So what you're seeing here is, let's see here. Okay. So this is an example. So when you first start out, you're gonna, and this is a new user interface. It used to be, you know, slightly different. You can always switch back if you're more familiar to the old interface, but I'll share the new interface because this is probably what you're gonna get familiarized with. So you've gone through the step of you created your shipping plan, and now you've gotten to the point where you come in, you've put the number of cartons going to the specific location. See here, it's coming the ship from address. This would be, you know, your supplier in your case because you're using DDP, but in this case, it's coming from Flexport. It's going, so that's their warehouse address, and then these. So it'll give you the option here to print these SKU labels. That's basically going to be your FN SKU. So you just download this, you provide this to your supplier so that they can put that on each unit, right? That's going to be your F and SKU. Then it's gonna like kind of like you fill that out, and then you put the next step is you're gonna put how many containers. So you've got unit count, and then you've got cartons, right? Cartons contain units. So in a carton, in this case, one carton contains 10 units. So that's why 99 boxes are being shipped to Concord, North Carolina. So they've given us the address here where it's being shipped to. Right now, that's irrelevant because none of, they're going to transfer this information over to when I get to this field here, when I finish step number 3, which is print the labels. So then when I get to this phase, I print these labels. So I click on this, and it, just kind of leave that letter. I click on this. It's going to give me a download of, here's like, this is getting, hopefully we're not getting too much in the nitty gritty. This is basically what the PDF that you're going to download, and then you're going to send this PDF to your supplier. And then they're going to, print this off, cut it out. And as you can see, each label, this is a carton label. This isn't a pallet label. Each label says it's coming from Flexport. In this case, for yours, it would have your supplier in China. And then the ship to address will be to, to wherever it is, that you're having it go. In this case, Concord, North Carolina. So each time you do this, it's going to just transfer this into barcode. This is what all your freight, all the freight carriers is what they're using, UPS and so on. And then you can see that this is, it has the quantity in here. Let me see, so this is box 1 of 99. This is box 2 of 99, box 3. So by them having this PDF file, all 99 are accounted for. So that's why they need, your supplier, what they're going to do is they're just going to print this off. They have like machines that will cut it into, just like a sticky label, and then just slap that onto the carton. Now, that's the carton label. But then you also have the pallet label, which that comes in, the next step where you go in, and once you've approved this, and then you go to continue to the carrier and pallet information. This is where you go in and you enter like the dimensions, the height, the weight of each pallet. Typically, your freight forwarder can provide you this information. This is the last step. So this is the information that your supplier is going to tell you in your case, because they're going to tell you if it's palletized and how many pallets there are, and like what the count of the pallets are. And you could just keep adding, if there's more pallets, and you just put the dimensions. They'll give you this information if they're palletizing it when they're shipping it. Wherever they palletize it, that's where you input this information. So it might not be until it's stateside that they palletize, because it might, if it's coming in a container, then it's gonna they're gonna like pile it in the container, try to fit as much as they can. And then when it arrives stateside, goes through customs, then it starts to get palletized, and that's when this information comes into play. And that's once you confirm this, then you'll be able to print the labels. So this is final step, print the pallet labels. So the first step, so this comes like at the tail end. First step definitely is to get your carton labels. So you can see an image, carton label, pallet label. So hopefully that helps. All right. Let's see here. I have to do my listing before. Okay, you already answered that. I'll let you tackle the next one, Sensei.
Let's see. So this one's from Anam, right? How many products did you start your Amazon journey with, and how long did you wait until you launched your second product? I started with one. I think most people start with one, just because there's so much to learn and you want to limit the risk. So most people start with one. It took me to launch my second product, I want to say it probably took between 6 to 8 months when I officially got my second product up for sale. Just because I wanted to wait and see how the first one went, and then had to find a new product and then kind of go through that entire process again. So I would say it probably took me 6 to 8 months to find the second product. And then after that, things start to kind of snowball and you get more you get more comfortable with it all. So I'd say typically your first couple of products are going to probably take you longer to launch than newer products after that. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it varies by person, but that was kind of the situation for myself, at least.
Yeah, and same for me. I started with one product, and then I started adding variants of that product, and then then the second product was a variant. I reordered like as different, basically just different colors, and then from there, once I got that humming and drumming, and then came the next product. So I guess you could say my second product was just a variant. And so I would suggest the same if you can, if you can sell variants of your product, see how that performs. And then, once you've got it to a place where, it's you're comfortable, then you launch your next product. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just, I think there's no rush to it either. I think to rush it is the worst case scenario. And that's why, like, maximize the potential of your first product launch, and then, like I said, the easy transition is when you reorder another variant of that, so that keeps it simple for you. Add a couple more variants, and just keep adding variants at first, and then then you can move to another product altogether. But it looks like we are out of time, Cole, and I know now it looks like. Oh, we actually have a few more questions here. Yeah, and reports would take a while. So there's unfortunately, there's no short answer to report. Reports are going to take a while. And just to answer your question, Hussein, maybe next week, if you want to drop that question, and we can come in here and walk you through that. But Hussein, let's see here, I have 20 boxes. Do I have to palletize them? Yes and no. Like I said, just your freight forwarder will let you know on what on that scenario. So like I said, just get that information from them, and you will be able to quickly identify that. So but yeah, if you wouldn't mind dropping that question in next week, and yeah. I think that covers everything for this week. And we always appreciate y'all coming on here and asking your questions. It's always a pleasure having you, Cole.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Rolando. I enjoyed it. We had some great questions today. Always have fun joining you for these Q&As.
Yeah, awesome. So we shall see you guys next week, same time, same place. As always, keep crushing it.